many times have you told yourself that tomorrow everything will be different? That tomorrow you will finally focus, finally become disciplined, finally take control, and yet tomorrow arrives and nothing changes. Not because you are weak, but because nothing around you has changed. We like to believe that discipline lives inside us, that it is something we summon, something we push ourselves into. But what if discipline is not a force? What if it is a structure? What if it is the environment you build around your life? Imagine a Viking on a cold, stormy shore. Before battle, before travel, before anything uncertain, he builds his camp, he places the shields, he prepares the fire, he arranges his tools, not because he feels motivated, but because survival depends on it. The camp comes first, always, because without structure, strength collapses. Now look at your own camp, your room, your desk, your phone, your habits. Is it built for focus or for distraction? Does your environment guide you forward or quietly pull you away? Behavioral science confirms something uncomfortable. Most of our actions are not chosen. They are triggered by what we see, what we touch, what is easy, what is close, what is available. According to research, habits are strongly shaped by context, not willpower. If your environment is chaotic, your behavior will be chaotic. If your environment promotes distraction, discipline becomes a constant battle, and most people lose that battle, not because they lack strength, but because they built the wrong camp. We are surrounded by invisible cues, a phone on the desk, a tab already open, a snack within reach. Each one is a silent instruction, and the mind follows what is easiest. This is what researchers call choice architecture. We follow the path that is already laid out, not the one we wish we would take, which means something important. Discipline is not about trying harder. It is about designing better. You are not failing. You are reacting to your environment exactly as a human brain is designed to. So the real question is not, how do I become more disciplined? The real question is, what kind of environment am I living in? Because your environment is not neutral. It is either training you or weakening you. And if you want discipline, you must start where the Vikings started. You must build your camp right now, before the storm begins. Because once it arrives, it will be too late to prepare. The most dangerous enemy is not always loud. It doesn't charge the gates. It doesn't announce its arrival. Sometimes it sits quietly in your hand, glowing, waiting. We call it a phone. But in reality, it behaves like a signal tower, constantly calling your attention away. Every notification, every vibration, every small flash of light, it pulls you, even when you ignore it, even when it is silent. Research shows something surprising. The mere presence of a smartphone reduces cognitive capacity, not usage, presence. Just having it nearby. It occupies part of your attention, as if your brain is always listening for it, always waiting, and every notification makes it worse. Even if you don't check it, your performance drops, your focus weakens, your mind fragments. This is not a lack of discipline. This is design. You are fighting something engineered to capture you. Now imagine a Viking camp. Would they leave the gates open? Would they allow noise inside the walls? Would they place distractions in the center of their camp? Of course not. They controlled the perimeter, and you must do the same. The first step is distance, not resistance. Distance. Move the phone away, not just slightly. Remove it from your reach, from your desk, from your immediate environment, because what is not visible stops triggering action. Second, silence the noise. Most notifications are not urgent. They are interruptions disguised as importance. Turn them off. Create silence, because focus requires space, and space must be protected. Third, create a boundary. Use do not disturb, not as an option, but as a rule, a signal to your environment. This is not a time for distraction. This is a time for work. These actions are small, but they are powerful because they do something critical. They remove friction from focus and add friction to distraction. And behavior always follows the easier path. You are not trying to become stronger than distraction. You are making distraction weaker. This is how discipline actually works, not by force, but by design. And once the noise fades, something unexpected happens. The mind becomes quieter, clearer, more stable. But now another challenge appears, because even in silence, you may still hesitate. The camp is secure, the gates are closed, and yet, you are still standing still, waiting for something to begin. And that is where the next lesson begins. There is a moment that stops most people. Not failure, not difficulty, but the moment before action. The moment where everything is ready, and yet nothing happens. You sit at the desk, you open the document, you look at the task, and then you wait for motivation, for clarity, for the right feeling. But the Vikings did not wait for wind. They used oars. They moved first, because they understood something essential. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. The first movement is the hardest, because it breaks resistance. And once resistance is broken, everything becomes easier. This is why small actions matter, not because they are impressive, but because they are possible. The 2-minute rule is built on this idea. Make the action so small that it becomes impossible to avoid. One sentence, one movement, 1 minute. Not to succeed, but to begin. Because beginning is the real battle. Another powerful tool is what psychologists call implementation intentions. A simple structure. If this happens, then I do this. If I sit at my desk, I write one sentence. No negotiation, no thinking, just action. This removes decision fatigue. It removes hesitation. It replaces uncertainty with structure. And structure creates consistency. Another layer is habit stacking, attaching a new action to an existing one. After coffee arrow work begins. After opening laptop arrow first task starts. You are not creating something new. You are attaching to something that already exists. And this is exactly how habits form. Through context, through repetition, through simplicity. Each small action sends a signal. This is who you are. Not what you say, not what you plan, but what you repeat. And slowly, identity begins to shift. The person who starts every day becomes someone who acts. The person who moves first stops waiting. The person who repeats small actions builds momentum, and momentum builds discipline. But there is still one final challenge, because discipline is not tested in the morning. It is tested at night, when energy fades, when structure weakens, when decisions become easier to break. And that is where everything can collapse, if the camp is not protected. Discipline is not lost in dramatic moments. It is lost quietly, at the end of the day, when you are tired, when your guard is down, when you tell yourself, it doesn't matter today, This is where most systems break, not because they were wrong, but because they were not protected. The Vikings understood this. They did not end the day in chaos. They secured the camp. They put away their tools. They prepared for the next morning, because they knew something simple. Tomorrow begins the night before. If the camp is disordered, the next day begins in disorder, and behavior follows that pattern. Science confirms this. Habits depend on stable context. If your environment changes constantly, your habits cannot stabilize, which means evening is not just rest, it is preparation. A simple ritual: clear your space. Set one task for tomorrow. Leave the first tool ready. Reduce light. Signal the end of the day. This is not productivity. This is structure. Then create boundaries, not aggressive ones. Simple ones. The bed is for sleep. The desk is for work. Separation creates clarity. Clarity reduces friction, and friction determines behavior. Add friction to what you want to avoid. Remove friction from what you want to repeat. This is the entire system. Not willpower, not motivation. Design. And one more thing. Learn to say no. Not loudly, not aggressively, but clearly. Every unnecessary commitment is a break in your structure. Every distraction you allow weakens your environment. Every yes has a cost, and discipline is often the ability to protect your time. Quietly, consistently, without negotiation. Because in the end, discipline is not something you force. It is something you build. It is the camp that holds you together, the structure that guides your actions, the environment that removes chaos. And when it is built correctly, something changes. You no longer fight yourself. You simply follow the path that is already prepared. And that is the real victory. Not control, but alignment. Not effort, but design. Not struggle, but structure. Because the strongest people are not the most motivated. They are the most prepared. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, your camp will still be standing. There is one final truth that most people avoid. It is uncomfortable, because it removes the last excuse. You are not only shaped by your environment, you are responsible for it. And this changes everything. Because once you understand that discipline is built through environment, you can no longer pretend that change is out of your control. You begin to see clearly. The distractions were not random. They were placed. The friction was not accidental. It was allowed. The chaos was not inevitable. It was unstructured. This is where responsibility returns, not as pressure, but as power. You begin to notice small things. The phone placed just a little too close. The open tabs waiting for attention. The clutter that quietly drains focus. The undefined spaces where work and rest blend together. Each of these is a decision, not a big one, but a repeated one. And repeated decisions become patterns. Patterns become behavior. Behavior becomes identity. This is how a life is shaped, not through dramatic change, but through invisible structure. The Vikings did not build their camp once. They maintained it. Every day, every night, because they understood something that modern life hides. Order is not permanent. It decays. Without attention, it collapses. Without intention, it drifts. And without structure, it becomes chaos again. This is why discipline feels like it disappears. Not because you lost it, but because you stopped maintaining it. The system weakened, the environment changed, and your behavior followed. But this also means something powerful. You can rebuild it, not through motivation, not through force, but through small adjustments. Move one object, remove one distraction, define one boundary, prepare one action. That is enough to begin, because discipline does not require a complete transformation. It requires a shift in direction, and once that shift happens, everything starts aligning again. The mind becomes clearer, decisions become easier, action becomes more natural, not because you changed who you are, but because you changed what surrounds you. And this is the real secret. Discipline is not inside you, it is around you. It is in the space you create, the rules you follow, the friction you design, the cues you allow. And once you see this, you stop fighting yourself. You start building your system. And that is where real control begins. Not control over emotions, but control over environment. And environment always wins. Which means now, you are no longer waiting to become disciplined. You are designing it, piece by piece, like a camp built before the storm. And this time, it will hold.